So this week was unique in that we studied specifically the prayers of the demigods to Lord Krishna within the womb of Devaki. A lot of devotees over the years have read these prayers, but not often do we go deep dive into them. And I want to thank everybody that wrote some of the forum entries. We really had some good ones this week. People really studied and put forth nice ones, helped everybody better understand them, their themes and what they were doing. I did want to go back just to text 25 to review who these demigods are, because it's not just one or two of them. Text 25 from chapter 2. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, accompanied by sages like Narada, Devala, and Vyas, and by other demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna, invisibly approached the room of Devaki, where they all joined in offering their respectful obeisances and prayers to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can bestow blessings upon everyone. So these are the topmost entities in our universe, and they're all invisible. Somehow or another, the last verse we'll read tomorrow, they actually speak to Devaki, but it's unclear if she actually heard them. I didn't look deeply into that. But we're talking about Vyas, Narada, all the different major demigods all together invisibly in the prison of Kamsa, offering their prayers. So let us go into the texts and study them, go over them. This is November 2023, lessons 2 and 3. And we'll start with this one here. Since there's not very many people, I'll start with the reading, Sama.
Okay.
Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 2, Text 29. The demigods continued praying to the Lord in the womb. O Lord, you are always full in knowledge, in full knowledge. O Lord, you are always in full knowledge. And to bring all good fortune to all living entities, you appear in different incarnations, all of them transcendental to the material creation. When you appear in these incarnations, you are pleasing to the pious and religious devotees. But for non-devotees, you are the annihilator. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This verse explains why the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears as an incarnation again and again. These incarnations of the Supreme Personality all function differently, but their main purpose is paritanaya sadhunam vinishayata duskritam, to protect the devotees and to annihilate the miscreants. Yet even though the duskritis or miscreants are annihilated, this is ultimately good for them. So we may remember back in one of the previous verses, I think it was the first one, that the demigods also prayed that you are pure to your vow. You will carry out your vow when you advent. And this was the concept that was being mentioned in the purport. Srila Prabhupada pointed out that no matter what incarnations of the Lord manifest in the universe, they protect the devotees and annihilate the demons. Any other comments? Okay, next, Sama.
Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. Did you want to say something, Mama Tara? Okay, Mama Tara has something to say. Unmute yourself.
Okay, I was just thinking with the demigods being so respectful, and I was thinking about Jai and Vijay, how they were somewhat disrespectful to Mother Lakshmi. Is it Lakshmi or?
Yeah, Lakshmi Devi.
Yeah, and then they had to worship Lord Krishna in fear, and I was thinking how fear is a mood of awe and reverence. So it's like I was thinking that the fact that they had to worship Lord Krishna in fear increased their awe and reverence to correct that behavior of um,
Familiarity.
yes, yes. I was just thinking that. I don't know how.
It's good. That's a nice train of thought, I think. What do you think, Patsy?
As I remember the pastime, that was not mentioned about their mood. It was actually described when Lord Vishnu came to the disagreement between to the doorway where the four Kumars and Jai and Vijay were disagreeing with one another, and the boys were all disturbed and cursing them. The Lord explained to them that this was all prearranged. This was my plan, because once when Mother Lakshmi came, I was sleeping and you stopped her from coming and bothering me. And thus she was disturbed. So it doesn't mention that they were really inappropriate in their actions with her. They were actually doing their duty as watchmen and as doormen to let the Lord sleep. But it was inappropriate because Lakshmi became angry. So there's a little bit of everything mixed into there.
It's different ras.
Yes.
So relationships. Okay. All right. Well, why don't we go on reading? Manvantara, why don't you read? And we'll have a few people read, and then we'll have a discussion together. Okay?
Text 30. Let me just minimize my screen. Okay. O lotus-eyed Lord, by concentrating one's meditation on your lotus feet, which are the reservoir of all existence, and by accepting those lotus feet as the boat by which to cross the ocean of nescience, one follows in the footsteps of Mahajans, great saints, sages, and devotees. By this simple process, one can cross the ocean of nescience as easily as one steps over the hoof print of a calf. Purport. The true mission in life is to cross the ocean of nescience of repeated birth and death. Those in the darkness of ignorance, however, do not know this mission. Instead, being carried away by the waves of material nature, they are undergoing the tribulations of repeated birth and death. But persons who have achieved the knowledge by the association of devotees follow the Mahajans. Such a person always concentrates his mind upon the lotus feet of the Lord and executes one or more of the 9 varieties of devotional service. Simply by this process, one can cross the insurmountable ocean of nescience.
Okay, good. Okay, I wanted to just continue reading, and then we'll have a discussion. But one thing really stood out for me here. Again, just keep it in mind. Who are you going to hear from? Who are you going to hear from? Who do you accept as truth? The Mahajans or any other source? You know, that's another indication of how important it is to hear from the right person. All right, so before everyone else discusses, let's go on. Tisha, my darling, would you like to read? Tisha.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, purport by Srila Prabhupada continued. Maharaj Parikshit became liberated by fully concentrating his mind on hearing the Lord's holy name, attributes, and pastimes. Similarly, Sukadev Goswami simply glorified the Lord, and by speaking on the subject matters of Krishna that constitute the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, he too was liberated. One may also be liberated simply by sakya, friendly behavior with the Lord. Such is the power of devotional service, as we learn from the examples set by the Lord's many pure devotees. We have to follow in the footsteps of such devotees, for by this one easy process, one can cross the great ocean of nescience, just as one might cross a small hole created by the hoof of a calf. Here, the Lord is described as Ambujaksha, or lotus-eyed. By seeing the eyes of the Lord, which are compared to lotus flowers, one becomes so satisfied that one does not want to turn his eyes to anything else. Simply by seeing the transcendental form of the Lord, a devotee is at once fully absorbed in the Lord in his heart. A yogi is fully absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for he has no other business than to think of the Lord always within the heart.
Wow, no other business. No
Yeah.
other business. That takes care of a lot. All right, think about that, and then let's have Sri Vrindavan read. Sri Vrindavan, are you with us? Let's give it a second.
Yes, I am. I'm
Yes,
just,
Hare Krishna.
I have got my, all right. I'm reading the purport.
Yes.
Purport. For one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation, and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the demon Mura, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoofprint. His goal is Parampadam or Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. Bhagavatam 10:14-58. This process is recommended here by authorities like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, Swambhu Narada Shambhu, and therefore we must take to this process in order to transcend nations. This is very easy, but we must follow in the footsteps of great personalities, and then success will be possible. In regard to the word Mahat Kritena, it's also significant that the process shown by great devotees is not only for them but also for others. If things are made easy, this affords facility for the person who has made them easy and also for others who follow the same principle. The process recommended in this verse for crossing the ocean of nations is easy not only for the devotee but also for common persons who follow the devotee. Hari Bol.
You have to unmute some.
Okay, sorry, Hare Krishna. Okay, so there's a lot of these purports. So those who read first, and Chaita, whoever wants to speak about this, a lot of different points here, who to hear from, the different processes for liberation. No other business than to hear from the Lord or meditate on the Lord, which is Bhakti Yoga, and accepting the boat of the Lord. So who would like to begin? How about Chaita. Okay, you begin.
Dandavat pranams. Good morning, devotees. I love this first phrase in the purport, which says, you need to know the mission. We need to know the mission of our human existence. And if you don't know it, the price of ignorance is very costly, because you just keep undergoing birth and death. And this purport, verse and purport describe the utility of the Pampara system, and specifically the Mahajans. The whole process is very elegant, already prearranged for us. All we have to do is accept it. But
And act on it.
Yeah, you have to act on it, absolutely. So it's very beautiful. The other thing is the analogy of the boat, that they leave a boat behind there in a certain place. You can get in the boat and you can go across, and then you leave that for someone else to take over. It's very beautiful. It's very sweet. Just how caring is this Pampara.
It's beautiful. That's a beautiful thought to keep you going through a few rounds. Meditate on that for a while. Opens the heart chakra. Very good. Mamatar, do you have something to add to this? Thank you, Chaita.
Yeah, in reading the verse, I was thinking how the mercy and how important and special the Mahajans are, and how important it is to follow the Mahajan of the time, because they understand the circumstances of the time and the notions and the things that devotees are going through, like how Srila Prabhupada made it available for like 16 rounds versus 64 rounds in terms of the practicality of its use at the time. And so like Chatamai was saying, how he leaves something, you know, these Mahajans, they come and they leave something behind for us to be able to follow through, because the mission of life is so important. I mean, this is the purpose of life, you know. So the fact that and all obeisances to them, you know, for actually establishing that for us. Yeah.
All obeisances to them for sure. Good. Tisha, what can you say about this? The different processes of liberation. That's like the 9 processes of devotional service. Can you say something about that?
The 9 processes of devotional
Well,
service.
that was referred to there. Or anything else you want to say about the verse?
I never really saw a lotus in person, you know, like a real one. And so I was looking at pictures of them, and they really are extremely beautiful flowers. Like, you know, when you pick them and use them on the altar, maybe I have seen them on the altar, but I didn't know that is what a lotus looked like, because you hear so many references to Krishna's lotus eyes. And so, you know, it's so good to associate the beauty of the lotus to Krishna's eyes or something. It helps you kind of relate,
right,
on a certain level. But for me, I'm about simplicity, and complicated processes like that non-personalists do are very complicated to attain liberation. But all we have to really do is remember Krishna's lotus eyes or Krishna's lotus feet, and learn from devotees. And so I like the simplicity, easy process.
Yeah, very good. And that the Lord is appearing in his form, in his the reason why I asked about Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadev Goswami in the 9 processes. One can achieve perfection of the Lord performing any of the 9 processes: hearing, chanting, serving, becoming friends with Krishna. You can perfect your existence if you're Krishna's buddy, you're his friend, because you'll do anything for your friend, you know. So it's so accommodating. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Anyone else? Pati, you have something to add to this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the sweet points, I like the analogy that's there, and I'll show how that's mentioned again in another place, that the whole ocean of material existence, which sometimes we get a glimpse of that. An ocean is not a small body of water. There's no, if it's a small body of water, it's not an ocean, it's something else. It's a puddle or a lake or a pond or whatever it might be, but it's not an ocean. And it says here that by taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, following in the footsteps of the Mahajans, following in the footsteps of pure devotees, following in the footsteps of those who have come from the spiritual world to assist the Lord, even an ordinary person who looks at that ocean and couldn't possibly cross it, they give the process. They show by their example, and the Shastras instruct the process by which that entire ocean becomes so small that one can easily cross beyond it. And the idea is simply to follow it. So I just want to go into one part of the text here to show an interesting connection. We said earlier that Lord Brahma is one of the demigods who is now here praying to the Lord in the womb of Devaki. And it says here that they leave behind on earth the method by which they cross. And because they're very merciful to other devotees, you accept, oh, that's not it. This is it here. That was the next verse. By this simple process, one can cross the ocean of nescience as easily as one steps over the hoofprint of a calf. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada quoted this: "For one who has accepted the abode of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation, as famous as Murari, the enemy of the demon Mura, the ocean of this material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoofprint." It's the same example. Anybody know what 10:14 is? What's chapter 14 in the 10th canto?
Oh,
That prayers of Lord Brahma.
Exactly. After he stole the cows and calves and boys, he was feeling very remorseful and came and offered those prayers to the Lord. So that same concept was mentioned in both places. It's mentioned before the Lord appeared, and then in this particular, and then in the prayers of Lord Brahma later on.
yeah. Another thing about an ocean, generally a body of water, you can see the other side. You can't see the other side of an ocean. Yeah, a lake, even a river, you can see the other side. Maybe very difficult, but you can generally see the other side. But you cannot see the other side of the ocean. That's how big it is. So we have to have a little faith and understand this process to get into that boat. Okay, let's go on now with Shri. Chaiti, you want to read?
Yes. Thank you so much, Mataji. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:2-31. O Lord, who resembles the shining sun, you are always ready to fulfill the desire of your devotee, and therefore you are known as a desire tree, Vancha Kalpataru. When acharyas completely take shelter under your lotus feet in order to cross the fierce ocean of nescience, they leave behind on earth the method by which they cross. And because you are very merciful to your other devotees, you accept this method to help them. Srila Prabhupada's purport. One can achieve the seed of Bhakti Lata, devotional service, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. The duty of the Guru is to find the means according to the time, the circumstance, and the candidate by which one can be induced to render devotional service, which Krishna accepts from a candidate who wants to be successful in going back home, back to Godhead. After wandering throughout the universe, a fortunate person within this material world seeks shelter of such a guru or acharya, who trains the devotee in suitable ways to render service according to the circumstances, so that the Supreme Personality of Godhead will accept the service. This makes it easier for the candidate to reach the ultimate destination.
Okay, so I want to ask you a question. Two questions here. 2 points were made. Specifically, the Lord is known to fulfill the desires of his devotees. That's one thing, which is a big topic. And then this time, place, and circumstance of the Lord's incarnation and the acharyas instituting a process of self-realization. And we see how Lord Chaitanya did it. We see how Prabhupada Manmatara was saying how Prabhupada altered the process by requesting everyone to chant at least 16 rounds. So this is at least, the end of it is at least, not that there's any stigma against chanting more.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Hopefully,
Prabhupada had to lower the bar for us.
Yes, he did.
We're just not capable.
Well,
But that was really nice. I appreciate what Manvantar was saying, how the acharya comes and they speak in the language of the people of the time. They understand the vernacular. And so in that sense, it's very personalized. Just see how much love Krishna has for all of us, that he presents it in such an accessible way. This whole process is very user-friendly.
Yeah, user-friendly. Perfect. Yeah, okay. Okay. Is it okay? Anyone else have anything to say about this? Let's go on. Oh, wait, I forgot the new method we are instituting. That we read a few verses and then we have a big discussion. Okay. Kate, would you like to read this?
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. The Acharya's duty, therefore, is to find the means by which devotees may render service according to references from Shastra. Rupa Goswami, for example, in order to help subsequent devotees, published such devotional books as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is the duty of the Acharya, to publish books that will help future candidates take up the method of service and become eligible to return back home, back to Godhead. By the mercy of our Lord and our Krishna consciousness movement, the same path is being prescribed and followed. Thus the devotees have been advised to refrain from 4 simple activities: illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, and to chant 16 rounds a day. These are bona fide instructions. The Acharya gives the suitable method for crossing the ocean of nescience by accepting the boat of the Lord's lotus feet. And if this method is strictly followed, the followers will ultimately reach the destination by the grace of the Lord. This message is called Acharya Sampradaya. It is therefore said, Sampradaya Vinina Ye mantra ste nishphala mataha. Padma Purana. The Acharya Sampradaya is strictly bona fide. Therefore, one must accept the Acharya Sampradaya, otherwise one's endeavor will be futile.
Oh boy. So what do you have to say? This is like the culmination of everything. What do you have to say about that, Kate? How does that make you feel about the Acharya?
Well, it has a lot to do with mercy and humbly approaching and asking, for these instructions, for this help, to make this easier. It was back just a couple purports ago, the purpose of one benefit of having a spiritual master is that it makes this process easier. They're able to kind of weed out and narrow in on the time, place, and circumstance and the candidate's needs, and just kind of point them in the right direction, because we're all lost swimming in this ocean. Yeah,
swimming in this ocean. In fact, you cannot achieve this if you don't hear from a self-realized spiritual master who has seen the truth, right? What's that verse in the Bhagavad Gita? Anyone know? Or come on, Chetan.
Tadvidhi pranipastin.
Right, good. You know the English? One can. Sham, say the English.
Help.
Okay. Pati.
Just try to learn the truth by accepting a spiritual master. Inquire from him, render service unto him, and he can reveal the truth to you because he has seen the truth. Tadvani pranipatena paripashnena sevaya. Upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina.
This is not an ordinary person. Just like the beginning, from the very beginning of this section that we were reading, hearing from the right source again is being stressed, to hear from the right source.
Regarding that, there's a kernel of wonder in this particular purport, which shows the confidence that Srila Prabhupada has. Let me bring it up here. This part here. After wandering throughout the universe, a fortunate person within this material world seeks the shelter of such a guru or acharya who trains the devotee in suitable ways to render service according to the circumstances, so that the Supreme Personality of Godhead will accept that service. So he's so confident that the Lord will accept this service that he presents that to humanity at large. And then through, I don't know if you've all seen Srila Prabhupada, there are books of his letters. I think it's several volumes of his lectures, no doubt his books. So much information is there so that each one of us can take shelter of this and adapt it to our particular circumstance. But we can't, you used the word alter earlier, Sam. I think it's more like, did you use, instead of alter, it's more like fine tune it to a particular circumstance. He doesn't change the process.
No, it doesn't change at all.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but each one of us have a particular, for example, somebody may say, I can't chant, or I can't chant 16 rounds a day because, and then fill in the blank. Srila Prabhupada really didn't accept that. There may have been circumstances where devotees were so engaged that he understood they weren't chanting their rounds, but still encouraged them. But the basic concept in the Chaitanya Charitamrita we read, that it was essential that one do that. Follow the 4 regulative principles and chant 16 rounds is the basic essential principle. And then time, place, and circumstance for each one. But I just appreciate it in this particular adaptation to the prayer of how confident Srila Prabhupada is. I can give you this instruction and the Lord will accept you if you follow it.
Oh, just like you said, altered. He's confident. Prabhupada is confident in everything that he says because he's heard it from his spiritual master. He's heard it from the parampara. This is not something that.
Yeah.
But there's 2 things. There's a verse in. I want you to understand the process of Nishians and the process of knowledge side by side. Is that in the Sri Upanishad?
Yeah.
So understanding that. The circumstances, let's call Nishians the circumstances of what's going on with an individual in the world today, and all of that scenario, plus the absolute truth. So the Acharya, according to understanding both sides, establishes a process that is suitable for one to become Krishna conscious. That just dawned on me too. That's kind of far out. That Prabhupada, it's not because he didn't alter anything, but he facilitated all of us. But based on knowledge, he did not alter this knowledge. He wouldn't even change the name of this movement to the International Society for God Consciousness. He was completely firm and fixed. And by the time he got down to saying yes, 16 rounds, that's the minimum. We have to make some sacrifice to do this. It's not going to happen if we don't put our hearts into it. If we don't think it's the most important thing for us to do. Krishna has to be like that. He is. If you don't think I'm the most important thing, okay, you can do anything else. You're free to do whatever you like. But in order to rise in this knowledge, in order to become a self-realized soul, you have to think this is the most important thing.
If you want the ocean to shrink, you have to follow the process.
Yeah, you want the ocean to shrink, man. Whoa, out to sea. There's the only way we're going to get across it if it shrinks. There's no way we can. Right? So we have to go for that. Who's going to shrink the ocean? Very good. Let's go on with
this next verse. I included the Sanskrit because it's one of those pillar verses that's quoted over and over and over again. Is anybody good at Sanskrit and wants to try it, or should I do it?
You do. Oh, Sean, you want to try? Oh, take the
Okay.
Okay. Ye ravindaksha vimuktamaninas tvayasta bhavat avishuddha buddhayaha aruya krichtrena parampadam tata patantyato nadrita yusmat angrayaha.
Excellent.
Very good. Okay. Kate, you read, right? She did. Kate just read,
she
right?
did read.
Yeah. Thank
She
you.
read
I'm sorry.
about the lotus and her lotus.
Right, I know.
icon.
Sorry. Sean, would you like to read?
I would like to read, but I'd like the discussion to be by the devotees because I'm a little behind in my audio. But yeah, someone may say that outside from devotees who always seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, there are those who are not devotees, but who have accepted different processes for attaining salvation. What happens to them? In answer to this question, Lord Brahma and the other demigods said, O lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, their intelligence is impure. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet. Purport. There are many varieties of non-devotees who have their respective ways of liberation, but simply because they do not know the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Although they falsely think that they have been liberated and elevated to the highest position, they fall down. As clearly stated by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 9.3, those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of foes, but return to birth and death in this material world. It doesn't matter whether one is a kami, jnani, yogi, philanthropist, politician, or whatever. If one has no love for the lotus feet of the Lord, one falls down. That is the verdict given by Lord Brahma in this verse.
Okay, we'll go on. We'll go on for a minute, and then we'll all talk. Okay, Manvantara, you want to continue?
Purport continues from text 32. There are persons who advocate accepting any process and who say that whatever process one accepts will lead to the same goal. But that is refuted in this verse, where such persons are referred to as Vimukya Maniha, signifying that although they think they have attained the highest position, in fact, they have not. Big politicians all over the world think that by scheming, they can occupy the highest political office, that of president or prime minister. But we actually see that even in this life, such big prime ministers, presidents, and other politicians, because of being non-devotees, fall down. Patani adaha. To become president or prime minister is not easy. One must work very hard, aruha krichrena, to achieve the post. And even though one may reach his goal, at any moment one may be kicked down by material nature. The cause of this, Visuddha Buddhaya, their intelligence is impure. The Sastra says, Tate Vidu Swarta Gatim Hi Vishnum. Bhagavatam, chapter 7, text 5, canto 7, chapter 5, text 31. One achieves the perfection of life by becoming a devotee of Vishnu, but people do not know this. Dhruva Maharaj at first wanted to achieve the greatest material kingdom and greater material possessions than his father. But when he was actually favored by the Lord, who appeared before him to give him the benediction he desired, Dhruva Maharaj refused it, saying, Swamin karato ashmi param nayache. Now I am fully satisfied. I do not want any material benediction.
Very good. Tisha, you want to go on? Tisha?
Yes. Hare Krishna. Yes. Purport continued by Srila Prabhupada. At night, no one can see a lotus, for lotuses blossom only during the day. Therefore, the word Aravindaksha is significant. One who is not captivated by the lotus eyes of transcendental form of the Lord, of the Supreme Lord, is in darkness, exactly like one who cannot see a lotus. One who has not come to the point of seeing the lotus eyes and transcendental form of Shyamasundar is a failure. Those who are attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in love always see the Lord's lotus eyes and lotus feet, whereas others cannot see the Lord's beauty and are therefore classified as anadurta yusmad angrayaha, or neglectful of the Lord's personal form. Those who neglect the Lord's form are surely failures on every path in life. But if one develops even a little love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is liberated without difficulty. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead recommends in Bhagavad Gita 9:34, Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru. Simply think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer some slight homage to me.
Very good. Well, a lot of things in this section. Who would like to say something first? Anyone? Okay, I'll ask you some questions. What does this have to do with the basic foundation of why we're here in this material world and why we're not going to leave it unless we understand one thing? Basic thing. Basic. Chita?
That we are servants.
Yes, that we are servants. Unless we understand that we're servants, this is alluded to in this purport, many different ways. And if you're not feeling, if you're puffed up, thinking I'm the president, I'm running for this office, or I'm a big shot in this, if you're thinking you're a big shot, how is that a service attitude? And what is the main requirement of a servant? You got to have this one main quality. Opposite from puffed up.
Humble.
Yeah, humility. And that's real tough. That is tough in this world because I'm the best person that I ever saw. To realize that I'm not wholly, misconception of life. So anyway, so someone else speak now. There's a lot of points. Humility.
I'd like to hear somebody explain how this verse and the purports are so often quoted and important regarding the impersonalists.
It has to do with what we were just speaking. Someone other than Chaita.
Here's the verse again.
Who wants to read the verse? Would you, teacher, read this, what is now highlighted? Pati, highlight that thing. Here you go. Read that.
O lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, their intelligence is impure. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet.
What was the question, Pati?
So what's your understanding of how that concept applies to the impersonalist? Because whenever there's you'll notice, that's why I put the Sanskrit up there, Aruya Krichchena Param Tata, that Srila Prabhupada always points out that they work so hard to attain liberation. They may even attain liberation into the impersonal Brahmajyoti. But what happens again? Although a person is liberated and goes back to the Brahmajyoti, after millions and millions of years in the Brahmajyoti, what happens to that person who worked so hard to get there? According to this verse.
Well, they
They
fall
fall
down.
down.
Yeah.
Okay.
They work so much for attachment, but they don't work on the attachment to Krishna, so they don't have anybody to help them stay there.
Okay, what's the one
They
thing?
rely on their own.
Their own
Go
what?
ahead.
Very good, you got it.
Sorry.
But there's another
They
thing.
There is
rely on
another
their
thing.
own perfect mind and
What's another thing that makes one attached to someone? That
Well,
we have. What?
I'm just going to say there's a relationship, there's love. If you,
Yeah.
one personalist, it's not personal, it's impersonal. So there's nothing like Kate was saying, there's no connection, there's nothing to
No love.
serve or love. It's
So,
impersonal.
but we hear, if you talk to any of the impersonalists or read any of their literature here, which we're not supposed to do, but anyway, they always talk about bliss and ananda and attaining the celestial oneness with the Lord. And this verse points out, let me bring it up again, that someone may actually do this. It says here, lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position, may think themselves liberated. And in fact, some of them do become liberated. Who can tell me in the Bengali or Sanskrit the verse which describes that the soul is the eternal servant of Krishna? Jivera
Swarupa hoy.
Vrindavan?
Krishna.
Vrindavan?
Jivera Swarupa hoy Krishnera Nitya Das.
Nitya Das. So the very essence, the dharma, the Sanatan dharma, the eternal nature of something will always bring that characteristic to the forefront if given enough time and circumstances. It has to happen because it's the nature of that thing. So the nature of the soul is an eternal service to Krishna. And the point of this verse is that those who do not take shelter of that sentiment, no matter what they do, no matter where they go, no matter how high they rise, even to the Brahma Jyoti, for billions and millions of eons, what will happen within the heart and the core of that living entity is, again, it will desire, it will come out that I have to serve Krishna. And then what happens? How would they ever attain service to Krishna from the Brahma Jyoti? Can anybody say the process which will take place for them? It says it in the verse.
They have to fall down.
Exactly. They fall down again into the material world and have to go through the whole process again.
Well, I have a question here. From falling from in a conscious state, making a decision to become a servant of Krishna, understanding their dissatisfaction, when they fall down, do they fall to the lower species, or they fall to a situation where they can continue their spiritual knowledge? Because, I mean, we're knocking it, and it's true that as far as developing love of God, the impersonalist, there's no way he can develop love because it's all one. You can't just, there's no relationship, as teacher was saying. But there was work done to get to that platform of the Brahma Jyoti, although we would say that maybe they should have started Bhakti Yoga from the beginning. Then it would waste all this time going up and down. But he doesn't fall all the way down to be a worm and stool again, does he?
It's subjective to each impersonalist. For example,
or a tree.
Yes. For example, when Lord Chaitanya went to Benares and met with Prakasananda Saraswati, who was a great impersonalist and had 60,000 disciples, because they had his association and must have had some previous Sukriti, when he explained the finer sentiments of the Vedas, these people study the Vedas very intensely, but it says they have vimukta maninas, impure intelligence. They're not hearing from the right source. So they have impure intelligence and think that this becoming oneness is actually the goal. And they're celibate, they're vegetarian, they're extremely austere in their lifestyle because they work very hard to attain that state of ananda, the bliss of oneness with the Lord. But if they don't have devotion, then it's like working real hard and buying a ticket and getting on the train and going in the wrong destination. You go in the wrong direction. Your ticket doesn't do you any good.
So in other words, they don't they have to fall back down to a very, very low species.
They may. Prabhupada said trees. Many of them are impersonalists, were impersonalists. And then they go through the cycle and what happens is that the soul itself has not accepted its nature as a servant of Krishna. And that has to be corrected before the living entity can go back to Godhead and serve the Lord eternally. It has to be.
Right. And we have all been here for many, many births. It's not this is the first time we've been around.
No.
And we have been here long enough. Every single one of us, every person, every soul. I mean, we've been here a very, very long time. So let's get to the real reason why we're here, and not and go and get out of this place. We have to get out. We have to get out of the material world. All right, let's go on. Thank you.
Yeah, the next person that's going to read, Sama, have them
Yeah.
read the last sentence of this, the previous purport.
Okay. Ian, are you ready? Nice to see you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I fell asleep, so I just got up.
Team Jago.
Hare Krishna. Glad to see you, Prabhu. Oh, so should I read this last
Yep.
sentence?
Read that first.
Okay. So therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead recommends in Bhagavad Gita 9:34, Man Mana Baba Mad Bhakto Mad Yajimam Namaskuru. Simply think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer some slight homage to me.
Simple.
Continue.
Yes.
Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33. O Madhava, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord of the Goddess of Fortune, if devotees complete in love with you, sometimes fall rather from the path of devotion, they do not fall like non-devotees, for you still protect them. Thus they fearlessly traverse the heads of their opponents and continue to progress in devotional service. Report by Srila Prabhupada. In history, there are many instances of devotees like Chitraketu, Indra Yamuna, and Maharaj Bharat, who circumstantially fell down but were still protected. Maharaj Bharat, for example, because of his attachment to a deer, thought of the deer at the time of death, and therefore, in his next life, he became a deer. Because of protection by Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, the deer remembered his relationship with the Lord and next to birth in a good Brahminical family and performed devotional service. Similarly, Chitraketu fell down and became a demon, Vichara Asura. But he too was protected. Thus, even if one falls down from the path of Bhakti Yoga, one is ultimately saved. Hare Krishna.
Unmute, Sama.
In reference to what we were just speaking about, can you tell us something about this verse, Ian?
Okay, so I just said that we are protected. So, as we know, in these three personalities that were mentioned there, we know that Maharaj Bharat took 3 lifetimes. He left his family at a young age, left the kingdom, which most people would not want to do, went to the forest, engaged in devotional service, but got attached to a deer. And as he said in the last moment, he thought of the deer and he became a deer in the next life. And as the story goes, he was fortunate to remember his former life, so he didn't. It tended to take to be near where Krishna Katha was being said. So in next life he was born in a Brahminical family. So you see where the Lord protected him. And in Chitraketu, although he said he became a demon because he was cursed, but it's interesting in the story with himself and King Indra in battle, wherein that he was speaking Nectarian in subject to Indra, and was saying that, wow, you mean he was in the guise of a demon, but in a sense he was a devotee. So you're seeing that in the discussion with him about Indra, he really spoke some wonderful nectar. And Indra Yamna, I think I'm trying to remember if he was a king, but he got cursed to become an elephant. And so in the last moment when they had the fight with the crocodile for many years, then I think he was named Gajendra, an elephant. So he had to fight with the crocodile, and for many years. And in the last moment, he remembered the Lord, offered some prayers, and so forth. The Lord came and rescued him. So it is said that it's there. Those three stories are those three personalities. You know, it's really, as it says in the purport, you are protected. And so this is a circumstantially fell down. I think that's a very sort of interesting description. Circumstantially fell down. So that's my bit. Hare Krishna.
Good. That's very nice. Thank you. That was
Yes, you did very good. How, Ian, does that the concept that the Lord protects his devotee and brings him back to him, although it may take lifetimes, how does that compare with the previous verse that says that those who don't take shelter fall down, even though they may reach a very high position? How do those two either blend together or contrast from one another?
You see, in the previous verse, there is no, there doesn't seem to be any aspect of devotion and service.
Yes.
Yes, because Bharat, he went and left his kingdom and went to do, devotional service. Unfortunately, got that job there. Chitaketu, he was a king that, he got darshan with the Lord and was a devotee, but he got cursed by Parvati and he became a demon, but yet still he was, he was still a devotee. And King Indrayumna, he got cursed, but at the last moment, he remembered the Lord, offered some devotional service, and got relief. So, yeah, is in the first instance there is no aspect of devotional service, so there's no credit that one has. They didn't credit.
Very good.
Spiritual credit of such. So that's my
Thank you.
take on it. Hare Krishna.
Manvantara, thank you. Thank you. That was perfect. Manvantara ji.
Sorry about that. So this Bharat was seriously offensive, though. When he was doing his puja, he would interrupt it and take care of the deer and stuff like that. I mean, he wasn't very, of course, we know he's a devotee, and Krishna is true to his vow about protecting devotees and those kind of things. But the only reason why I mention that is because, like, when I'm chanting my rounds, I'm often interrupting, you know what I mean? And it's just like, if that's one of the cause for fall down, it's like, it's majorly offensive. But I mean, it's hard to control the mind, so it's just kind of crazy about that. But it's reassuring because Krishna says that, promises to protect his devotees, and the demigods are worshiping that promise by Krishna.
But don't take advantage. Don't think because we read this in the Bhagavatam and it happened to the greatest of devotee, Maharaj Bharat, that comparing my inattentiveness in chanting with his inattentiveness by taking care of the deer, because actually that was also some Leela to teach us. Krishna creates all of these different situations and made it into the Bhagavatam, for goodness sake. So it's got to be something more than just mundane. It's a real, very important lesson, because as we're hearing, if we're responsible for our thoughts, and we're going to go on in another section of this particular section, how devotee is thinking of Krishna and opportunity to serve Krishna by hearing and chanting, and just by, we said before, being friends with Krishna, that's service, and that can liberate you. But don't think Krishna is not looking at you. Krishna's looking at you when you're talking to him, and he's looking at you. Just like you're trying to see him, you might not be able to see him or realize that he's in his name and you're going through the motions, but he is looking at you. He is seeing what you are doing. He's seeing how you're relating to him and how you want to relate to him. He sees this. He sees everything about us. Okay. There was a thread there, Mamatar, that it's not the same exact. It's not exactly the same as Maharaj. Another personality who gets really ripped apart by devotees is Lord Indra, who happens to be the king of the universe. He is a rascal because he can't control his senses. But who are we to say? I mean, the demigods are exalted personalities, and they're all devotees. Okay, we'll go on, and that's a whole other discussion. But thank you, Mama Tara. That was a good point to bring up. Let's go on now with Tisha reading. Tisha, want to read? Seems like
Hare Krishna.
yes.
Okay, verse 34. O Lord, during the time of maintenance, you manifest several incarnations, all with transcendental bodies beyond the material modes of nature. When you appear in this way, you bestow all good fortune upon the living entities by teaching them to perform Vedic activities such as ritualistic ceremonies, mystic yoga, austerities, penances, and ultimately samadhi, ecstatic absorption in thoughts of you. Thus, you are worshipped by the Vedic principles. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Out of causeless mercy, the Lord appears in different ages in his original Shuddha Sattva, transcendental body, to elevate human society to the spiritual platform upon which they can truly benefit. Unfortunately, modern politicians and other leaders stress the bodily comforts of life and concentrate on the activities of this ism and that ism, which they described in different kinds of flowery language. Essentially, such activities are the activities of animals. We should learn how to act from Bhagavad Gita, which explains everything for human understanding. Thus we can become happy even in this age of Kali.
Oh my goodness. Another real potent verse. Oh, you want to go on? And then we can discuss, Patti? Okay.
No, that's
Tisha,
okay. I thought it was a purport, the next one. So.
Okay. Tisha, what do you think about this? How does it encourage you to become totally determined? Let's go back to the verse so she can see it.
Just that the Lord manifests different incarnations, so there's many different ways that he's bestowing, there's that good fortune to us living entities, and that helps us go back home to Godhead instead of get caught up in this ism and that ism. I love Prabhupada for saying that, and all the descriptions of you could do this, but it's just like a sales pitch, all these isms, they present their pitch. People follow this pitch and they think they're going to get somewhere, but it doesn't lead anywhere. And so Prabhupada's just saying, here it is. It's simple. He's not providing some kind of sales pitch and flowery, way to get there. He just very simply tells you, this is the way. Simple as that. I like that.
Yeah, good. It is. It's the way. Otherwise, essentially, activities are the activities of animals, and what does that mean? What does that mean? Essentially, it's the activities of animals. Tisha, what do you think that means?
Following material desires and satisfying your own senses, material senses.
Like animals eat and animals sleep and animals satisfy their senses and have sex. Prabhupada often says about that, you sleeping in a nice soft bed, so the animal is sleeping under a tree or something. And whatever we're doing, we have animal propensities. Not that we should neglect it completely, but the goal of our life is not to satisfy the animal propensities. The goal is to realize this is not where we belong. And what do we have to do? Of course, we call it chanting, and we call it hearing, and we call it reading and devotional service. We have to perform austerities for Krishna. It's not easy, some of the things. Prabhupada is saying, get rid of it right now. Yikes. It's hard to give stuff up in the world. We're so attached, and it's hard. But that's why we have to hear the benefit. You have to really be convinced of this.
One of the points that the demigods are also bringing out here is that the Lord himself comes and establishes what should be done, how it should be done, and what should not be done. Wasn't that something in the verse with austerities, religious principles? You bestow good fortune upon the living entities, teaching them to perform Vedic activities, Vedic ritualistic ceremonies, mystic yogas, austerities, penances, and ultimately samadhi. So he teaches by his example in each particular incarnation and yuga and form these different things. We're not just speculating on the process of chanting or the process of deity worship. All these things are taught in the Vedas, which ultimately come from Krishna, or taught by Lord Chaitanya, following the whole parampara. There's so much emphasis on the parampara that we've discussed today. Following the Mahajans, the ocean to the hoofprint of a calf, and now these Vedic ceremonies, and it's all part of the same theme as we're going through it.
Okay, one more question. What is it called that the Lord establishes, that we saw Lord Chaitanya establish? Just can anyone tell me that? What is that called, that activity that will provide self-realization to the living entity if he takes it up? It's the what of the age. Every age has a different process, and that's called the
Yuga Dharma.
Yeah, good girl. That's it. Good for you, Tisha. She gets a few stars for that one. Very good. Okay, so let's go on now. How about Kate? Kate, would you like to read, sweetie?
Yes, thank you. Hare Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:2-35. O Lord, cause of all causes, if your transcendental body were not beyond the modes of material nature, one could not understand the difference between matter and transcendence. Only by your presence can one understand the transcendental nature of your lordship, who are the controller of material nature. Your transcendental form is very difficult to understand unless one is influenced by the presence of your transcendental form. The appearance of Krishna is the answer to all imaginative iconography of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone imagines the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to his mode of material nature. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that the Lord is the oldest person. Therefore, a section of religionists imagine that God must be very old, and therefore they depict a form of the Lord like a very old man. But in the same Brahma Samhita, that is contradicted. Although he is the oldest of all living entities, he has his eternal form as fresh as a fresh youth. In ignorance, people are imagining the form of the Lord. Sometimes he has no form, and sometimes he has form, according to their different imaginations. But the presentation of Krishna in the Brahma Samhita is Vijnana, its scientific experience knowledge given by Lord Brahma and accepted by Lord Chaitanya. There is no doubt about it. Krishna's form, Sri Krishna's flute, Krishna's color, everything is reality. Here it is said that this Vijnanam is always defeating all kinds of speculative knowledge. Therefore, the demigods prayed, without your appearing as Krishna as you are, neither Ajnana Bida, the nescience of speculative knowledge, nor Vijnanam would be realized.
There we go. And what's that, Kate? Hare Krishna. That's a new technical evolvement. Do you know what that is?
Is that from like the Sistine Chapel or something? I don't know what that is.
Yeah. 16th, what is it? Sistine Chapel. And also it's in the library in New York City, 42nd Street Library. That's God as an old man. Misconception. Okay. Anything you want to say about this, Kate?
Just that this verse was very profound to me because the first time I walked into a temple, years ago, I saw Jagannath, my reaction was like, oh my gosh, idolatry. That's what I thought. And so many people just until you can understand the transcendental form and it's beginning, you have to experience it. You have people have these reactions like, what do you mean a little blue boy who's, by a river and he's herding cows? Like, people, you cannot understand it without experiencing it through the processes that we've been discussing and through, the mercy of the acharyas. And
Good girl. Yeah, we've all had stories like that. Looking at Lord Jagannath for the first time, it's got to be an experience for people. You know what I mean? Ian, did you have something to say?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. In the last sentence there, the word therefore in quotation marks says something very powerful there.
Therefore, without
Therefore. Notice is in open and quotation. So it means whatever is before or after. Therefore, is sort of maybe a link between those two. If you notice, the open and close. Therefore, the name of God's Spirit. So
that's the conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah. So that says something. Therefore, it says a lot there.
Good. Prabhupada often says that. He often quotes that, like, therefore. That means something. Good for picking that up. Therefore, the conclusion is, without your appearing as Krishna, you are neither Jnana Vida, the initiants of speculative knowledge, nor Vijnanam would be realized. So that's, remember we spoke about the Sri Upanishad, that niscience and knowledge, those two things have to be realized together, and without the appearance of the form of the Lord, this would not be. Okay, so now I have a question. What other kind of appearance? If, we talked about how we're trying to see the form of the Lord. You could be standing in front of the deities and you don't know that you're seeing the form of the Lord. How else does the Lord reveal himself so that we can see him and understand him? Anyone know?
Through his holy name?
Well, what do you know? Yes. Okay, any other way?
From me? You mean coming from me?
Well, whoever wants to give someone else a chance to see. What other way can we realize Krishna? I mean, we're really trying to, there's two things here. We're trying hard to see Krishna, and we have to remember, he's also looking at us. He is watching us. That makes me feel good, even though I don't see him. Now, comes to the point where, okay, I know you see me, please accept my humble prayers, So I saw a couple of hands flat. Cheta?
I was thinking Krishna is speaking to us through devotees.
Sometimes, pure devotees.
Pure devotees.
And actually, not only devotees. You have to learn to see Krishna speaking to us through everything. But you're right, through devotees. Through devotees, that's a big one. Anyone else? Sri Vrindavan? No? Okay.
Krishna in our heart as super soul, right?
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Sham, you want to say something?
The spiritual master is the externalization of Krishna's words.
Good for you. That's good. Spiritual master actually is also the representative of Krishna.
So yeah, that could be Shiksha and Diksha. So yeah, devotees as well.
Sure. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Those are the sources of knowledge. Very good. Okay, everyone's hearing nicely. Let's go on with Sham, would you like to read this verse?
10 to 36. O Lord, your transcendental name and form are not ascertained by those who merely speculate on the path of imagination. Your name, form, and attributes can be ascertained only through devotional service. Purport. As stated in the Padma Purana, one cannot understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality, and pastimes of Sri Krishna through one's materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. This confirms Krishna's own words in Bhagavad Gita 1855. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Only by the Sevan Mukha, by engaging oneself in the Lord's service, can one realize the name, form, and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to have Sri Vrindavan. Would you like to read? And then, Sham, I want you to tell me something about this because you're hearing now. And these things are so far out that we can hear the scriptures and we can actually have realizations many, many different times hearing. That's why we present it in so many different ways. Okay, Sri Vrindavan, would you like to read?
Continuing the purport 10:236. O Lord, the demigods say, the impersonalists who are non-devotees cannot understand that your name is identical with your form. Since the Lord is absolute, there is no difference between his name and his actual form. In the material world, there is a difference between form and name. The mango fruit is different from the name of the mango. One cannot taste the mango fruit simply by chanting mango, mango, mango. But the devotee who knows that there is no difference between the name and the form of the Lord chants Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and realizes that he is always in Krishna's company. The history of Krishna, the person, has been openly seen by everyone, and only those who are in love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead can appreciate this history, whereas non-devotees who have not developed their loving qualities think that the activities, form, and attributes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are fictitious. Therefore, this verse explains Na nam rupe guna janma no nam na nam rupe guna janma karma bhir niruptyavayet tavatasya sakshina. In this connection, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given the example that persons suffering from jaundice cannot taste the sweetness of sugar candy, although everyone knows that sugar candy is sweet. Similarly, because of the material disease, non-devotees cannot understand the transcendental name, form, attributes, and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although they actually see the Lord's activities, either through authority or through history. They simply speculate and present commentaries with absurd distortions. In conclusion, unless one elevates himself to the transcendental platform, by practicing Bhakti Yoga, one cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his name, form, attributes, or activities.
God,
Wow, that's a very
simple, easy method. Okay. Sham, can you tell us something, my darling, about all of this, the thing that is really significant for you?
I think it's the theme of all these verses is that there's the absolute truth and the relative truth. And that if you can't connect to the absolute truth, then everything's relative. But if you know that Krishna exists, then all one's energies can be directed. And we're given a process of how that works. But you have to have knowledge first, and then engaging in service, knowing that Krishna exists. One becomes closer and closer, and I guess becomes in love. And this seems like the theme of the prayers of the demigods.
Good. That was pretty packed. Very concise. Very good. Thank you. Sri Vrindavan?
Well, I always I'm very much attached to when Prabhupada says Vigyan, because I'm like a scientist by profession from many, many years ago. But the Vigyan I was doing was totally not this Vigyan. So I really like it when Prabhupada says Vigyan, realized knowledge. There is Gyan and there is Vigyan. So we may be exposed to all the Gyan, but unless we actually practice and we actually engage in devotional service, only then this Vigyan will be manifest. So, like, I also was fascinated at what Kate said was, I was struck by that, but that she saw the deities and she was like idolatory, that we can be exposed to so many different things, but unless we actually go deeper, a little bit deeper, we scratch the surface, then we scratch more, you dig a little bit deeper, and then you find that there is so much in this ocean of of devotional service, that there's so much that you can get more and more nuggets every time you dive deeper and deeper.
So even Darwin,
Yes.
can you speak a little more about the difference between Gyan and Vigyan, and use an example from your times as a scientist where that would be applicable, just so people can better understand those two concepts? The difference between Gyan and Vigyan. Why the emphasis on Vigyan?
Because like we can have so much, people are into knowledge, people want to read a lot, you want to keep
First of
on
all, for
reading,
those that might not know, Gyan means knowledge,
right?
and Vigyan means realized knowledge. So what's the difference between those two?
So we can amass a lot of knowledge. We can do a lot of reading. There are some people who just read and want to get a lot of knowledge, and you can just become a jnani, which means you can recite the verses. You can they'll say, I know what is on page number 565 of this book. So you know all those things. You just know them as a parrot. So like a parrot, when you are a parrot, you can say all many things, but what Prabhupada say, as soon as the cat comes and grabs your neck, he's not saying Krishna's name. So the realized knowledge would be that you actually are, when you're in our sampradaya, or what we actually practice the process of devotional service. When we actually do the practice, that's when we can actually make the realization, make the connection between the knowledge. The knowledge is there, but what is the meaning of that? If Krishna says, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, then it would just be a statement. But when we actually look into what is the origin, how Krishna is connected to that origin, how he's expanding himself to so many forms, and how those forms are actually coming into play in our material nature, and how the creation is happening, all of those things happening, we can actually, it's not just a term, Krishna to Bhagavan Swam, we actually understand how he's Bhagavan. If somebody and Prabhupada never wanted us to be blind followers. He wanted us to know, like I think we discussed last week, that if it is knowledge without, say like fanaticism, we don't want to be fanatics. We don't want to be just sentimentalists. We want to have realized knowledge. Only then we can actually make any progress or make any connection to what is being said.
So
and as far as being,
one question.
Sorry.
One question. What's another word that you can use to help everyone understand what realized knowledge means? That often Prabhupada uses this word.
Why don't you tell us some rather than asking?
Okay, experienced knowledge. Experienced knowledge. So that kind of like, okay, I've experienced love for Krishna, and I understand that I can't get to that unless I serve him. That, by executing Vaidhi Bhakti, which is the rules and regulations, that could be Gyan. But realized is you start to fall in love with Krishna. But as a result of realizing you're the servant and you're following the direction of the spiritual master. It's a science.
Because she mentioned she was a scientist, I kind of equate that with academic approach. And if you approach this information, so many people, like in college, there are college professors who teach Sanskrit or who teach the Vedas, but they don't do it as a devotional practice. Their intention, their motive is to understand the knowledge for knowledge's sake. Like you said, being able to quote a verse or what page this is on or what story that is. And they don't connect the dots of love, as Samapriya was saying, because they're not approaching it with that attitude. And that's why this verse that Prabhupada quoted, Atasi Krishna Namadi Nava Vedgraham Indre Sevon Mukhe Ijivado Swayamevaspartida. One cannot understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, and quality of Sri Krishna through one's materially contaminated senses. You can't do it. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, and quality of the pastimes revealed to him. Kate, how did you go from iconography or idolatry to understanding and appreciating the form of Lord Jagannath. Share a little bit about that transition, and that will explain, that will give us a nice example of Gyan to Vigyan, or actually ignorance to Vigyan.
Actually, it's funny because when, hear Sri Vrindavan say all these beautiful things, then I think, well, but this is a spiritual science. And that's what kind of attracted me to Krishna consciousness, is like, okay, there's a method. People have done it before. There are, just like you want to learn anything in life, you go to people who have done it before. And so, but a materialist scientist will probably just balk at the term spiritual science, right? But there is a spiritual science, and by slowly over time following that, there is a method.
It's not fantasy. This is reality. This is reality. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna have to end here, my darling. So, is there anyone has any serious question that we can solve within half a minute? Okay, otherwise, just let's chant and pray and realize that Krishna's watching us, and we're just real close to him right now.
And
Speaking about him.
one point is that tomorrow we'll have the last of the demigods' prayers and the beginning of chapter 3, the birth of Lord Krishna.
Oh,
So
Hare
coming up to
Krishna.
that point.
Jai Giri
Yeah.
Govardhan. Jai Giri
Oh,
Govardhan.
yes, happy Diwali.
Govardhan.
Happy
Govardhan
Diwali.
Puja.
Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpataruja Kripa Sindhuvyeva Ketanam Vaishnavam.
Vaishnav.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Hare Krishna.